talks, we received a message of another terrorist attack by a mosque in Peshawar. Several people were injured and there were victims, and we join the words of condolences, and we insist that the fight against terrorism should be more active all over the world, without any double standards and without attempts to play with the terrorist groups for the sake of achieving someone's political goals. This is what is being done quite often by some of our Western colleagues. We decided to continue the practical partnership in the anti-terrorist track, both bilaterally through the relevant work groups at the level of Deputy Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and multilaterally, first of all in the United Nations and in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We are satisfied with the current status of the Russian-Pakistani military cooperation. We support regular contacts between the heads of the defense ministries, the heads of the general staff, and we also conduct regular joint exercises for military training, battlefield training, including the exercises for improving the anti-terrorist capacity. We continue providing training for the Pakistani servicemen in the institutions of the Russian Defense Ministry. We also talked about the plans to build up the humanitarian, cultural and educational links. We are satisfied to note that the Pakistani universities, in particular the universities of Balochistan, Peshawar and Islamabad, have expressed their interest for creating the centers for Russian language. And we continue to provide state scholarships for Pakistani citizens in our Russian universities. We have a positive outlook of the dialogue between our foreign ministries, including the dialogue within the framework of the United Nations, the global organization. This helps us find more efficient solutions for the current regional and international issues. Naturally, we spend a lot of time talking about the situation in Afghanistan, which is directly linked with the task of eliminating the terrorist threats in our region, since unfortunately the threat still exists in the territory of Afghanistan, but efforts are being taken, and we have agreed to use the capacities of the SCO, in particular the SCO Afghanistan Contact Group. We have a shared interest in building up cooperation within the SCO. We agreed that this is a very promising format of multilateral diplomacy, of multipolar diplomacy, and the efficiency of this organization is proven from the other countries for closer cooperation with the organization and even joining it as members. I have shared my views of the situation related with the consequences of the Western activities to use Ukraine to launch a hybrid war against the Russian Federation, including the creation at our borders of direct threats to Russian security, including the consecutive policy to turn the Kiev regime into a tool for destroying all the rights of the Russians and the Russian speakers of the eastern and other regions of Ukraine. We are in favor of the position, and we need for the global community to realize the seriousness of the situation and take consideration of the proposals that used to be voiced in the European continent and now are being voiced in the global context, for the need to find common approaches for security based solely on the principles of equal and indivisible security for each and every state of our planet. We are grateful to our Pakistani friends for their impartial and balanced position on the matters which are currently discussed on the global agenda in the international organizations under the pretext of the Ukrainian conflict. The visit of the minister was very timely, and we have a clear confirmation of our mutual aspiration to expand cooperation in all the areas. We will continue supporting each other.
Foreign Minister Lavrov, distinguished members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Lavrov for the warm welcome. I am pleased to observe that my visit is taking place in the year which marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Pakistan and Russia. Today we had a friendly, detailed and productive discussion on all aspects of our bilateral relations as well as regional and global issues. Strengthening relations with the Russian Federation remains an important priority for Pakistan. We believe that Pakistan-Russia relations not only serve our respective national interests, but also contribute to regional and global stability and security. We intend to intensify cooperation with Russia in the areas of trade, economy, security, counterterrorism, defense, as well as cultural, educational, and people-to-people contacts. Last year in September, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Vladimir Putin had a successful summit meeting in Samarkand. Just recently, the 8th session of the Pakistan-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economy, Scientific and Technical Cooperation was held in Islamabad. The IGC covered a wide agenda encompassing economic, trade, and especially energy cooperation. Pakistan views Russia as an important player in the West, South, and Central Asia. Pakistan and Russia have good cooperation on Afghanistan. We aim to continue cooperation with our Russian friends on realizing our common goals of peace and stability in Afghanistan. We discussed bilateral cooperation at multilateral fora, especially within the United Nations and the Shanghai cooperation. We have a firm belief that all conflicts can be resolved peacefully and that there are no obstacles which diplomacy cannot surmount. The Ukrainian conflict is no exception. Developing countries like Pakistan are facing negative consequences in terms of its economic impact. We trust that the strong tradition of diplomacy of the Russian state will help achieve a peaceful resolution of the conflict. I would like to thank once again my gracious host, Minister Lavrov, for his invitation. We hope to continue high-level contacts and reiterate Pakistan's commitment to deepening and strengthening relations with the Russian Federation. I thank you.
Please, the Pakistani television.
Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari sahab, this year's Pakistan and Russia are celebrating 75th anniversary of the diplomatic relations. Your grandfather Zulfikar Ali Bhutto tried to deepen relationship with Soviet Union, whereas your mother Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto and your father Mr. Asif Ali Zardari made all efforts to establish good ties with Russia. Today, how do you see this relationship between two countries?
Thank you so much for your question, particularly noting the three-generational input from my family in enhancing Pakistan-Russia relations. As the Foreign Minister noted, Shahid Zulfikar Ali when he was Energy Minister, Foreign Minister and Prime Minister, worked on enhancing bilateral relations. As you mentioned, Shahid Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto in her term as Prime Minister made her efforts. My father, President Zardari, when he was President of Pakistan, contributed in his capacity to the enhancing of bilateral relations between Pakistan and Russia, and I'm particularly proud that as Foreign Minister of Pakistan, I too will now be playing my part in enhancing bilateral relations between Pakistan and Russia. The 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relations is a happy occasion, and we plan on commemorating it in a befitting manner. Our growing relations are characterized by increased pace of high-level exchanges, including the summit meeting last year in September in Samarkand, and our communication ministers visited Moscow last November for the signing of an agreement on international road transport. Our Minister of State for Petroleum have fruitful meetings in Moscow in December 2022 and on expansion of energy cooperation. And as I already mentioned, we have held a successful 8th session of the Intergovernmental Commission in Islamabad earlier this month. Also, the Special Representative of Russia and Afghanistan visited Islamabad. There is will and enthusiasm on both sides to not only follow up through with our existing plans for cooperation, but also to look for new vistas of cooperation for a brighter future between our two countries.
Thank you. Уважаемый Сергей Викторович,
Distinguished Minister Lavrov, previously there used